This time we're going to call to order the meeting of June 19th, 2017. Councilmember Gilliam, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Gilliam,
Here.
Vice Mayor Clower,
Here.
Mayor Velazquez,
Here.
Councilmember Friend,
Present.
Councilmember Luna,
Present.
City Manager Avera,
Here.
City Attorney Diaz,
Present.
Police Chief Westrick,
Here.
and the record will show Tom Graves is absent.
Thank you very much. Verification of agenda posting.
The amended agenda for the City Council of the City of Hollister meeting of June 19th was posted on the bulletin board at City Hall on June 15th, 2017 at 6:48 p.m. per Government Code Section 54954.2.
Thank you. We'll move forward to the consent resolution. Any items from the council you'd like to pull?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull item 4 and item 7.
Any others? I'd like to pull item A9. Are there any from the public?
No, Mr. Mayor?
Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We'll move to item A4.
Good evening. Okay. Yeah.
Just clarification on the project.
Okay. So this item, there's actually authorizing two projects. It's the corridor traffic operations study for San Benito Street project and the crosswalk safety enhancement project. It also, in the resolution, will authorize the use of RSTIP funds for both of these projects. The first project is to reanalyze San Benito Street between 3rd and 6th Street. It eventually, we're looking at the one of the final outcomes to be able to present to the council a solution for our flashing light at 5th and San Benito. And then the second project for evaluation design of enhanced pedestrian crossings at 4th and West, Nash and Sally, Sunny Slope and Clearview, Hillcrest and Clearview Drive. These are potentially lighted crosswalks or enhanced crosswalks at those locations.
Yeah, and my question, Dave, was will there be any follow-up on other projects, say like the Buena Vista Road, where you might have some flashing lights being considered for the future?
There's a couple developments that have already on basically on the hook for enhanced crosswalk safety. One of them is the Chispa project, and we're talking to them about possibly a lighted crosswalk at Line in Buena Vista, and then the Allendale project or the De Novo Homes project is looking at putting a lighted crosswalk in that portion of North Street or Buena Vista Road immediately fronting their project.
Yeah, and I find some urgency on Buena Vista and Line. It's only because of the new development there for Chispa,
right,
and the apartments and the beginning of the school year where the children will be crossing that street.
Right, and we've already we've actually talked to the developer for that one. They're going to be doing paving this week on Buena Vista, it looks like, and then it will also include thermoplastic striping,
okay,
which will include an enhanced crosswalk, and then we'll be looking at some other potential possibilities of getting a lighted crosswalk at that location on Line Street. They're looking at different funding mechanisms to get that put in.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate the
Sure.
Okay, any other questions? Any questions from the public?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Sure. Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. We'll move to item
Thank
A7.
you.
What can I answer for you?
Actually, I noticed it said financial assurance, and it just for the public to know exactly what the city is doing by, having a standby letter.
Okay, what we're trying to do is get a letter of credit to fulfill our financial assurance for the closing of John Smith landfill for the type 1, and they've calculated it to be about $1,428,000 that we need to have aside. So we don't want to put that amount of cash aside, so a letter of credit until we can have that site cleaned up, and that's we think is more financially feasible that way.
And so, as I recall, at one time, did they have bonds that were actually used for something like this?
Yeah, we had certificate of deposits on hand, but that's when the EPA was monitoring the site, and now the Department of Toxic Substance is requiring a higher dollar amount now that they're the ones that are monitoring it. So that's why we're trying to get the letter of credit.
And so that letter serves as a financial assurance.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Questions from the public?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Is there a
Motion to approve.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item A9. Who'd be handling this?
That would be me.
I'm just curious on this one. It's seems like we're closing the street for a private birthday party just to walk down the street. So I'm a little concerned that we're going to be blocking off.
It's just an hour. It's under an hour, and it's just for them to walk safely from their home on B Street to Sacred Heart Church.
Well,
And it's only one way.
Can't they use the sidewalks?
They will be, but just in case I don't know how large, I think they're having, their group is extremely large, so they're requesting the safety of having those streets closed.
But I'm concerned we're going to inconvenience quite a few people for a private birthday party to walk down the street. I'm a little concerned that we're setting a precedent on this, and pretty soon we're going to have quite a few requests to be closing streets. That there's a cost to having people come out to close the streets. I don't mind when we're doing it for a large nonprofit organization, but I'm a little concerned about doing it for a birthday party.
Understandable.
Okay. Is there any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, what would be the cost involved of having the manpower of the city going out there and actually putting the signs up and rerouting traffic?
Probably best answered by Mike Chambliss, but it would definitely be at least 2 public works plus
Generally,
signs.
anytime we have a couple of public works employees going out and doing something similar to this, it runs anywhere between probably $500 and $800, just in staff time. But if they're not already doing something here,
This is on a weekend?
Correct.
yes.
And as I've known in the past, and I've participated in the walks, but it's been from nonprofits, and they've walked in the sidewalks, and we've never asked for manpower from the city. That would be my concern, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Clower?
We've already approved several private events closing down the streets just on consent today. So this isn't any different from the block parties on Versailles and Severinsen. Those are all private events too. So it's just interesting that we're picking this one because it looks a little different.
They block their own street.
Yeah, they block their own street and they get signatures from all the neighbors. I'm just concerned
It's
that
still
we're blocking several streets to have a birthday party walk down the street. Any other questions, comments? Is there any speaker cards?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a motion? No motion. The item dies for lack of a motion. Thank you very much. Let's go to item C, public input. This is time for anyone in the audience to speak on any item not on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. When the city clerk calls your name, please come to the podium, state your name and city for the record, and speak to the city council. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes with a maximum of 30 minutes per subject. Please note that state law prohibits the city council from discussing or taking action on any item not on the agenda. Do we have speaker cards tonight?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Jose Peñas? Perez. Thank you.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Jose Perez. I reside here in Hollister. I am a business agent for the Teamsters, Local 890. We represent over 5,000 members throughout San Bernardino County and Monterey County, and even as far south as the Imperial Valley. Some of the companies we represent are Taylor, Organic Girl, Dole. I personally oversee Olam and Gilroy, UPS Monterey, UPS Salinas, UPS Freight. But the reason I'm here tonight is for San Benito Foods. As you know, many of our members, or as you may not know either, many of our members actually reside here in Hollister, and they contribute to the local economy. They have their kids in our schools, they pay our taxes, and right now we are in the midst of contract negotiations with San Benito Foods. San Benito Foods employs over 450 people, 100 of them year-round, the rest seasonal. San Benito Foods has been here since 1930. Many generations of our locals have worked there. There are maybe even some members out there that are on pension and still live in this county and participate in our economy. We have several families and children and grandchildren that also benefit from San Benito Foods. And I just want to remind the council of how important they are and how vital they are to our local economy. I know that there are several issues about San Benito Foods.
Mr. Perez, I'm going to have to stop you here because we do not have any jurisdiction over the cannery. So it's not our place to be involved in.
I know you don't have jurisdiction, but it is. I know that they have file for permits within the county, within the city, and I know that that's been an issue among
right.
them.
But as far as labor agreements, it's not
right. And
our place.
And I'm not here for. I'm just wanting to remind the city council how important San Benito Foods is here.
They are.
And,
yep. Thank you very much.
All right.
Laura Calderon.
Hello, my name is Laura Calderon. I'm a health educator for the Tobacco Education Program with San Benito County Public Health Department. I was here at the City Council meeting on December 5th. I presented City Council members on the Lee Law Ordinance, which states no more than 33% of window space can be covered with advertising or signs. And in 2008, the City of Hollister adopted a stricter ordinance reducing that coverage from 33% to 25%. Today I'm here to provide you with two packets. You have an orange packet, which is our updated Lee Law educational packet, and you also have a red packet, which is the tobacco retail licensing e-cigarette and flavored product packet. These packets have information regarding our 2016 Healthy Stores for a Healthy Community campaign survey results, in which we conducted at 44 retail stores here in San Benito County. Just to provide you with information on the survey, this is a statewide collaboration between our tobacco use prevention program, nutrition, and alcohol prevention partners. This survey is conducted every 3 years throughout the state. The goal of collecting this data is to improve the health of Californians through changes in community stores and to educate people on how in-store marketing influences consumption of unhealthy products. Our data shows in our county that 14.8% of San Benito County youth use tobacco as compared to the state at 13.8%. In our county, there is a cost of smoking that's estimated at $10.8 million, and this is compared to the state at $7.48 billion. The cost includes medical bills and treatment for chronic diseases such as cancer, heart disease, etc. We also want to share that 76% of all the stores in our county have some form of unhealthy storefront ads. Next, I want to provide you with the red packet. Just to explain, flavored tobacco products are little cigars and cigarillos that come in brand names such as Swisher Sweets, for example. Tobacco companies spend $1 million an hour marketing these products to youth here in the United States. There are also 7,000 flavors, and most of these are designed to attract youth, and they include cotton candy and tropical fusion. Just to let you know about e-cigarettes, e-cigarettes are aerosol, and it includes chemicals that are also found in tobacco cigarettes. And that information we want to show is in San Benito County in 2006, an estimated 60% of retail stores sell e-cigarettes versus in 2013, 48%. And you have the packets. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Calderon.
Erica Vallon.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Erica Vallin, and I'm also a health educator with San Benito County Public Health Department with the Nutrition Education Program. And our program's focus is to promote fruits and vegetables, healthy beverages, and physical activity. And in doing so, we collaborate with schools, parents, and community organizations for healthy change. For instance, establishing salad bars in Hollister Elementary School District. And one of our greatest successes in the community is working with our retail store partners. They play a huge role in our community, and they also help influence the health of families and young individuals who shop in them. So we really work hand in hand to really provide healthy food demos at these stores and provide signage to promote fruits and vegetables and help them create healthy environments in their stores. And last year, the Healthy Stores for the Healthy Community campaign created a survey to assess tobacco, healthy foods, and condom availability in 44 stores in San Benito County. Now, let's remember that 85% of these stores are in the city of Hollister. The survey found that the amount of sugary drinks at the checkout areas had reduced to 43% compared to the same survey that had 85% of the stores having these sugary drinks in the checkout lanes in 2013. So that's a step in the right direction, and that means that there was about a 50% reduction of sugary drinks in these checkout lanes. And it's also important that we recognize our local retail stores who are making positive changes. Nob Hill is an example. They went tobacco-free a few years ago. And also now something that they're doing is that they're offering a piece of fruit at the bakery instead of the free cookie that they were giving to children. So this is something that started out as they were collaborating with us during National Public Health Week, and it turned into something that they just carried on, and they've been doing it for almost a year and a half now. So I just want to encourage City Council to recognize various retailers such as Nob Hill who are doing their part to create healthier changes in their environments. And before we get too excited about all these good things happening in our community, we also have to remind ourselves that the same survey showed that there is more availability to tobacco products than to fresh fruit and vegetables in our community. So that's not a good thing. But you're probably asking yourself, how can I make a healthy change in my community? Whenever you see fruits and vegetables in certain retail stores, thank them for having these items available. So, we definitely turn to you guys, the policymakers, to make the change we want to see in our community. And if you guys would like more information on the results from the 2016 Healthy Stores for Healthy Community Survey, you guys can visit the website healthystoreshealthycommunity.com. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Clint Ayler.
Good evening. My name is Clint Ayler with MJ Dispensing Solutions. I'm here as I'm partnering with various cannabis businesses throughout the state of California, and at the request of one of your applicants who's looking for a dispensary license. My company, MJ Dispensing Solutions, offers a number of ID verification solutions, track and trace solutions for product traceability, etc. And we'd be happy to answer any questions regarding that application or anything in general, as we work with a lot of the state. Our technologies have.
Can you check your microphone's on? I don't.
I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
There we go. Our technologies have the capability of doing ID authentication, automatic age calculation, basically ensuring that minors can't bring in a false ID and purchase really any type of product, whether it's tobacco, cannabis, what have you. We also offer automated dispensing solutions, banking solutions. So contrary to what most people believe in the industry, banking is possible, merchant processing is possible with the knowledge of the banks, and so you can take cash out of the system. And so we'd be happy to come in and speak to you about what possibilities there are and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much.
Sean Donahue.
Hi there. Good to see everybody again. I've been sort of busy in the last couple of months, and it's good also to see a new face. Congratulations, council member. I just have a little bit of an update. I've been, all across the country, had a great lobby day meeting with Congressman Panetta, and had a great lobby day meeting with Assemblywoman Caballero, and really they're excited about what they're hearing about what's happening in Hollister. Of course, I'm going to make comments about things that are not on the agenda for tonight, so of course I'm going to comment about the process. I am, of course, affiliated with one of the dispensary applicants, and I'm concerned about the process. We look forward to a very elaborate Stage 2 evaluation and interview process, as well as then the follow-up for Stage 3. The other thing that I was going to comment on, I think it's great that Hollister spent so long in sculpting a very workable position vis-a-vis establishing local control for medical cannabis commercial activities. I'm not going to say unfortunately, but just a little bit of an update. The governor's trailer bill language was amended into a trailer bill that actually will become law as soon as the governor signs it. The legislature passed something that is a little bit hard to discuss because I'm spending the last year and a half of my life talking about local authorization and local licensing and local permitting, which apparently is no longer required. The Medical Cannabis Regulation and Safety Act that we got to know so well is being deleted and being completely repealed and folded into the adult use framework, which of course is going to be interesting. But I think that Hollister really excelled by putting itself on a pathway towards local control, local community preferences, and establishing a very deliberative process. And so that's why I would recommend that next week you guys really focus on the things that are non-competitive in nature, the manufacturing, cultivation, and other elements of the supply chain that are non-competitive, where there is no limit on licenses. And I would suggest that next week you kind of move the dispensary conversation past next week and allow for a Stage 2 and a Stage 3 evaluation, interview, and subsequent consideration by the City Council procedure to play out as it was drafted in the regulations and ordinance as passed by this body. So that's sort of where I am with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marty Richmond.
Marty Rich from Hollister. Good evening. The other night I went to the informational meeting concerning the proposed Roberts Ranch property, and the mayor was there, and Councilmember Giglio was there, the city manager was there, and Supervisor Munzer was there because it adjoins one of the properties that are in the county. And during that time I was looking over some of the map of the proposed properties here in Hollister that are somewhere in the system between getting a tentative map and getting annexed and getting approved and getting a permit to build and under construction. It's pretty complicated. But what I can tell you is this. One way to find out where you have an electrical problem if the circuit breaker keeps going off is just hold it down with your thumb. And wherever the fire breaks out, that's where the problem is. Well, that's the way we did the sewer plant way back when. We just held it down with our thumb, and we waited until it drowned us. This would not be a good way to do this. Now, we have lots of stuff on the proposal list that benefits the city because we've asked for it. So we've asked, for instance, the North Street extension is a good example because it takes the traffic problem off the thing. We've got some affordable housing items going on in Buena Vista with Chispa, and we've got some proposals for senior housing and other ones. I won't go over every one, and they definitely have advantages that we want. But we're not looking at the ones that don't have a lot of advantages with the idea of what's the total impact. And the problem is, as I said the other night, and I'll say it again, is that we're not in this alone. There's 800 units to be built at Santana Ranch and other units to be built in the county. And essentially, we're all using the same road to get to the state highways. Every 1,000 units that build, according to my calculations, put 695 commuters on the road with an average commute of 30 minutes. And it's according to state data. So if you have 2,000 or 3,000 sitting on the list waiting to go, you're looking at 2,100 cars a day on a work day. That's the way it works out because we get about 1.5 people working per household, and half of those are commuting. And only 15% or so are in carpools. Everybody else rides alone. We need to look at it from a big picture. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Julia Vansel.
Hello, my name is Julia Vansel, Mr. Mayor, council members. I wanted to talk about the application process for the dispensaries and marijuana. I have a couple concerns. As I told you last time, I'm not against medical marijuana, and I think there's a place for it in our city. I just want us to put it in the right place. Some things have come to my attention. As far as the application process, there were a few of the applicants that missed deadlines, and according to your own rules, they should be disqualified. So I feel like that's something that you need to look at and look into. Another issue I have, I'm not saying that Mr. Clower has done anything wrong, but in my estimation, he should have written. No, but I'm going to
please.
I'm not going to
right
accuse him of doing anything. But I'm saying, what I am going to say is that even if there's nothing nefarious going on, you need to avoid the impression of impropriety. And so some of the things that have gone on.
I do appreciate that, but please don't.
Well, what I'm asking
there's insinuations there, and we don't want to be making
no
those.
Problem. Okay, so that would be my big thing, and I would ask that, some of these companies are looking at us like we're Mayberry. We're not. We're better than that, and you're all better than that. So we need to do the right things to make sure we put them in the right areas, and we make everyone follow the rules. I don't think that's an unfair thing to ask. It was also brought to my attention there were things about, well, we don't care if there's kids on that street. If people don't want to bring their children to businesses that are on that street because there's marijuana sold there, then don't. Well, you're not taking into consideration all of these small businesses that have been in the community and building their businesses for years. So you're going to destroy small businesses for one major business. That doesn't make sense to me. So I'm just respectfully asking that you, and I do understand you are taking your time, and this is you're doing the best you can, but let's get it right. Let's make sure we put it in the right areas. We don't ruin other businesses and that type of thing. And I'm not accusing anybody, but I think we all need to avoid the appearance of impropriety. So, do you have any questions for me?
No, thank you. Thanks.
Taylor Rodriguez.
Honorable Mayor, council members, This public comment is for an item not on the agenda tonight. The medical cannabis dispensary applications have been improperly scored. The process set by your council has not been followed. On February 13, 2017, your council held a special meeting to review, modify, and approve Hollister's cannabis regulations and application procedures. At this meeting, I submitted written and spoken public comments specifically requesting clarification on the matter of binary or sliding scale scoring. Your council, staff, and legal counsel repeatedly reaffirmed that all scored components were binary. Either full points would be awarded for a section because the applicant had met the criteria, or no points would be awarded for the section because the applicant had not met the criteria. The legislative intent is clear. Points are to be scored in a binary fashion. The different weighting of the scoring sections was expressly to communicate to applicants the importance your council placed on different sections and to guide your council in evaluating which dispensary applications to accept from among the top 8. There is no authorization for staff to tier scores for qualifications of applicant by comparing the applicants against one another. I understand that I may lose in a fair fight. I am prepared to do so. The key here is fair, and the process by which the scoring was done is not. I request that your council direct staff to follow the process duly passed by resolution. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Elias Salinas.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Elias Salinas. I am here to also speak on the cannabis applications for dispensaries. I think that this staff should slow down the process. I believe that, in my opinion, an assistant should be hired to assist Ms. Mendez in the processing of the applications. I think that there's no hurry for the city to get into the process to get it done correctly. One of the most important things in the process before awarding any of the permits is going through the background part of it. And there right now, we still aren't taking any fingerprints, so you can't do an accurate background on anybody. I think when the staff decided that they were going to go ahead and go forward on this, it's my understanding that it hasn't gone through the complete staff committee, which should have been the planning, the fire, police, city manager, I think city attorney, and one other person, department. So that those steps have been missed. I think I understand that, in my opinion, I think that the staff thought that they were doing the right thing by saving some resources. They must have been impressed with these applications, and they skipped some steps. And unfortunately, I don't want to get a black eye. When I say I don't want the city. The city has been the most progressive municipality in the entire state when it came to getting this ordinance done. People were panicking because in March of 2016, people thought that there had to be some kind of a ban, and the city knew better, and they went forward with this. The city of Hollister has control on what happens in this with regards to allowing all these permits before it goes to the state. I think that we should pull the dispensary applications from being heard from the next agenda. Let us slow down, and let's get this process done correctly. Again, Mr. Rodriguez mentioned that it should have gone through a scoring system. The components should have been either you get the full scoring system or you get 0 points. There's also, on the scoring that I saw, they are comparing that some of these applications don't meet other applications, and there shouldn't be any comparing when you're just going on the point system. You go through the interview process, and you should be able to find out from there and doing the background information instead of trying to award something. Real quick, I'm running out of time here. Some of the applications are missing required components, and you cannot award or continue to go through the application process if you're missing an important component that would make the application invalid. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alexander Miller.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The greatest part of being an American is our Constitution and our constitutional right, and the best constitutional right we have is the First Amendment in the Constitution, the freedom of speech. Tonight, I have watched the mayor shun down 2 people during public comment and telling them to stop because it is against their code, against personnel, or against the cannery, which is not their agency's problem. But you cannot tell people to be quiet during public session. We as public citizens in this community have a right to a 3-minute to talk to you, whatever we would like to speak to you about, and you are not able to turn people down that right. And so when you turn people down that right, it jeopardizes our justice system, and it jeopardizes us being as Americans. So please do not shun people down during their 3 minutes.
There are no more speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll move to item E1. Who's handling that? City Manager?
No, Christian, you going to do the LLD?
Good evening. This next item is just to conduct a public hearing and adopt a resolution confirming the boundary of the Landscape and Lighting District 93-1 and order the levy and collection of the assessment for the fiscal year 2017-2018.
Okay, is there any questions from council? This time we'll open public hearing. Do we have any speakers?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we'll close public hearing. Any questions, council? Is there a motion?
So moved.
The motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We'll move to item F1.
Good evening. Item F1, which is a ordinance of the City Council, which is amending stopping, standing, parking in specific streets and areas in the municipal code. Specifically, this item will introduce an ordinance that will prohibit parking on a portion of the east side of Prospect Avenue between East Park and South Street. It's the part that sort of parallels the railroad right away. It does not include the business area, so it's about 1,385 feet north of East Park Street. So you start at Park Street, you go north, and that will create a no parking zone. Currently, a lot of trucks and other vehicles will stop and park on off of the Prospect, but onto which is city right of way, driving across the bicycle path that's there, and in doing that, it has the potential of causing damage and other visible or invisible problems that will eventually lead to the deterioration of that bike path. So with that, if there's any questions.
Is there any questions from council? Councilmember Luna?
So Dave, that's not the area by Rancho San Justo School where they have the soccer fields
No,
and
it's
people
not.
park there? That's not that area?
No,
it's on the
not.
other side?
It's on the other side of East Park Street.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Gilio?
I was scanning through this, and maybe I missed it, or perhaps it's not there. Was there a public outreach then to get any feedback from the community in that area?
No, this is in response to a number of complaints that we received with trucks parking in that area. They park there, they overnight, and it is a problem. There really isn't enough room for trucks to be parking and have a good, safe travel way.
Thank you.
Okay. Vice Mayor Clower?
So we are talking about the west side of Prospect?
The east side of Prospect.
Okay. Okay.
Adjacent to the bike path.
That answers my question.
Okay.
My question was going to be exactly, we're talking the east side along the railroad tracks, right?
Yes.
All right. Do we have any speaker cards?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we adopt City Ordinance 1140.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We're going to move to item
Thank you.
F2, and I believe this has to deal with Chispa Affordable Housing Group also?
In a way, yes.
Yes. So I'm going to recuse myself. I have a working relationship with Chispa. I'm going to pass the gavel to the Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Clower. The item before you this evening is an amendment to a performance agreement that is in place as of May 10th or May 3rd of 2010. This project has been in the works for many, many years. It was known as Estancia Anati, and now it has the name of Silver Oaks. It had been approved as an adult living private development that's essentially just south of the Hazel Hawkins Hotel or Hazel Hawkins Hospital, and sorry about that, and just to the east side of Highway 25. In 2010, we came up. The developer requested an amendment to the performance agreement that had sort of a unique formula related to the sales price of the homes to determine sort of the affordability that he would pay or as an in lieu fee or pay or actually construct the units. We're moved ahead 7 years now. We have an opportunity where the developer is seeking the opportunity to pay a minimum of about $1 million for the in lieu fee. Half of that, a minimum of $500,000, would be earmarked and be a part of Chispa's tax allocation application for the 49 units that they have proposed on Line Streets, strictly for seniors. That is a 100% affordable senior apartment complex. And then the other $500,000 or so would be available to the City of Hollister to use for another affordable housing project potentially in the future. So you have the ability now to ask questions to me, and the developer is here. I should also say that we had a study session several months ago. I don't know if you'll recall, but Mr. Miller requested that the age restriction actually come off of that. I think the council was okay, but Mr. Miller has is now proposing to keep or retain the age restriction on those units. So again, Silver Oaks will continue to be 55 and older development, and all he is looking for is the opportunity to pay us today for an in lieu fee. Again, that's kind of an important part of this, is that based on sort of net present value, it's roughly about, like I said, just a little over $1 million versus probably about 1.45 in 5 or 6 years as those units fully developed. So it's more or less, do you want the money now to move forward with some affordable housing projects, or does the council desire to wait and have them pay as those units develop? So is there any questions of me? And like I said, Mr. Miller is here.
Councilmember Luna?
Yes, I have a question regarding, actually, you mentioned Chispa?
Yes.
And so is this sort of like a done deal where if this amount is received by the city, it will be going into affordable housing, but is there a process that will follow and not necessarily be just one development?
Right. So if you'll recall, the City Council has already taken action a couple times on some assistance or subsidy to the Chispa project on Line Street as it relates to the tax credit application. In fact, just a meeting or two ago, you augmented the money previously approved by an additional $300,000. So this is all about just making our tax credit application more competitive, and by bringing in more subsidy to the project does actually make it more competitive. It means that they're going to be requesting less. So in this case, yes, what we're asking for is that the council direct it to go, half of it go from the Anati property or the Silver Oaks property to Chispa for Line Street specifically. In the event that the tax credit application is denied or is not approved, then Chispa would return all the money that we have provided in subsidies back to the city of Hollister, in addition, including this money here. So it's really if they're successful, it's fine. If they're not successful, it all comes back to the city to either try again at some future tax credit application deadline time, which is I think in January or March of next year. So that's kind of the idea there. And then the additional money would be available in the event that we have another for-profit or nonprofit developer seeking to do a tax credit application on another project sometime in the future. It's just it's an ability for us to have a sort of an affordable housing in lieu fund.
And you said this is 68 units?
Essentially, he's required to do 68 quote-unquote affordable, yes, out of the development.
Is the representative here?
Yeah, Mr. Miller's here.
Mr. Miller? Yeah. I just wonder if Mr. Miller had any of their friends, that could do this for the city. But it's nice. Thank you for coming.
Mr. Vice Mayor, members of the council. Council Member Luna, I'm sorry, what was the question?
She wants you to have friends. She wants more people to do what you're doing.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll look around for them.
No, I was just wondering if you had anything else to add to this. It's a very interesting conversation we're having here today regarding this.
Well, yeah, in way of just a little history on how I wound up here today asking for this is about a year ago, Dana Cleary and I were talking about the possibility, is there some way that Chispa could help our project, Silver Oaks, actually develop units, because our project right now is the cost of the land and the improvements that we've made is so expensive it's impossible to build affordable units. The only thing we could possibly do is provide in lieu fees, and those in lieu fees don't go very far, as you know. And so the first thing we talked about was, well, could Chispa actually build the units on our property? And we decided that wasn't a good way to go, because in order to get the units at a low enough price to address low and very low income people, we'd have to change the zoning to increase the density. And that in turn, we would have to redo our engineering plans, we'd have to come back for new approvals, and we'd have to go through the plan check process all over again. That would probably take a couple of years and a lot more money. It didn't make sense. So then Dana mentioned that there was this Line Street property that someone else owned, but she thought she could negotiate to get control of the property. And then I agreed that if that worked, I would offer to help Chispa achieve their goal of building 49 affordable units if I was willing to pay $1 million to do that. And the way the $1 million comes about because in today's dollars, if we could build Silver Oaks today, the in lieu fees would amount to about $1.5 million. And when you translate that, doing a calculation called net present value, back to dollars in today, June 2017, if you had the dollars today, they're worth about $1 million versus having them over a 5-year period. And I'm not sure I can get the financing to build this over a 5-year period. But if I could, it's equal. It's roughly equal. Getting the money over the next 5 years is equal to having it all in your hand today. And so it's really a question of a bird in the hand versus two in the bush, so they say, in terms of this money can go for a good purpose right now to help Chispa achieve what she wants to achieve. It also simplifies my project, and one of the having an affordable component when you have no subsidy for it is a very hard sell to the banks, and even to, if I can't get a bank loan, to a subsequent buyer. And so the city is getting what it wants, real affordable units. Chispa gets to build them, and I get a more saleable project, or a project that I might be able to get funding for. And I think it's a win-win for everyone concerned. And that's why we're here today, to offer this opportunity.
Councilmember Friend?
Well, I just want to thank you, Marty, for coming up with this idea, because like you say, we get the money up front and we help Chispa. Plus, we also put in our fund for future affordable housing. We would have some seed money in that. And when this project first came, I think you and I were not eligible, and now we are.
That's correct. That's correct.
I think I was brand new to the Planning Commission when that happened, and that was a long time ago. So this project has been, it's a great infill project, and it's a great use of that with the age restrictions, and I'm real glad to see you put that back on, because that close to the hospital, that's important. And it's going to have a walkway to the hospital. I mean, it's that close, and I think that's important. So I think this is an excellent way not to get around. We're still going to build the affordable housing, and with the track record that Chispa has, I'm sure they're going to happen, and that way we know it's going to happen. I think this is an excellent way to approach that problem.
Thank you.
I just wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you. And I would add also that when I looked at the statistics from the Census Bureau, it turns out that 21% of Hollister senior, 21% of the population of Hollister and San Benito County is over the age of 55. And that population over the age of 55 is actually growing at 7% a year. And so this is an underserved market. Hollister, there's nothing of significance that's going on to address the housing needs of seniors, and hopefully these two projects will be a start to that, and maybe more people will come in and do more.
Thank you.
Councilmember Gilliam?
Marty, I wanted to thank you for your time and for coming before council. And we had met earlier in the week, and I appreciate the project, because I'm sure there's more profitable ways to deal with that piece of property. And I think this is a good project for our community, a good project for you, and I hope we can get this going as soon as possible. I did do some research after you left, and I saw the 21% with pretty steady growth of seniors, and we need this type of housing sooner than later, so hopefully we can get it going.
Let's open it up for public comment. Are there any speakers?
Marty Richmond?
Morning, Richard from Hollister. Most of what I have to say has already been said by both the developer and the members of the council, but I'll just repeat. I'm very happy to see this again back as a senior project. I supported it strongly when it was originally a senior project. I was disappointed when the financial facts seemed to drive it to another sector, because I think it's a perfect place for a senior project. I think it supports the hospital. The hospital supports the project. I also believe that it is an underserved market. It is also a low-impact market, much less impact normally on the city than a full, because obviously the schools are usually not an issue, as much of an issue, and so on and so forth. And I'm very happy to see it back as a senior. I also think, on a practical basis, getting 49 units that might be well funded with lots of money to back the tax credits is important, because that allows not only get you to 49 units, but allows Chispa to go out and do something else too, because they don't have to use all their money on the 49 units. So essentially, this is a good way to leverage the funds. It's a good way for a win-win-win all the way across the board, and I'm certainly in support of the proposal. And like I said, I'm awful happy to see it back as a senior project. Thank you for your time.
There are no more speakers, Vice Mayor.
Are there any other comments or questions from the council? Or would you like to speak on it? Sure, if you can just fill out a card after.
Yes, I'm
Thank
sorry, I forgot that. I'm Dana Cleary from Chispa, and I'm Director of Real Estate Development, so I have been laboring long on some of these tax credit projects that we work on, and sometimes it takes years to get the funding. So I'm always looking over my shoulder, looking at who else is applying for tax credits. And I can sort of see this every round that we apply. So you're helping me and with the funding that you've already committed. And Billy's creative solution with this, and I really credit him with thinking about this, how can I get money now into a tax credit project that's, in hand, as Marty Miller said, as opposed to in the bush. And then how can I also reserve money for a future project? That made a lot of sense to me. And I got to thank all the staff for working on this. This has been a kind of a last-minute push. The land became available. CSDC was willing to work with us on it. And we've been pushing along, trying to put everything together for an application on June 28th, which is next week. So this will help us. It definitely will help us, and I appreciate Abraham's work with us, Tricia, and Brian. They really have sat down and made it happen for us. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the council?
Close the public hearing.
Yeah, okay, we'll close the public hearing. Okay, so I have a little bit of a problem with this scenario. When this was approved back in '99, it was 40% affordable, which is really high. And I think everybody kind of understands that that's really high. But that equated to like $3.4 million at that time. When this unit, these type of houses would have been a lot less expensive 18 years ago. Obviously, they didn't get built for several reasons. In 2010, it was dropped down to essentially $1.5 million toward the affordable. And at that time, the cost of a house was a lot less because the market had tanked. Now we're looking at going from 1.5 to 1, so you've gone from 3.4 million down to 1 million if we approve this. That's a pretty big difference, especially when you've seen the housing prices actually go up significantly to almost all-time highs at this point. We're not quite there, but we're getting close. I have another issue with the fact that almost all, if not all, of the low-income units end up on the west side. And I would like to see affordable units spread out more evenly across all 4 districts. This would either be in my district or Councilmember Gilio's district, and there's very there's very few affordable units in either district, especially District 4. And that I can even extend that to multifamily units, so rental housing. There's just not very much of it. Best case scenario, you actually get these affordable units in the subdivision so that you can't tell the difference between an affordable unit and a market rate unit. Realistically, with the in lieu fee option, that's just not going to happen. It doesn't make sense dollars and cents wise. So then you end up going to an in lieu fee. Now, this is probably as good as any option that we'll have with the in lieu fee in X number of years. But philosophically, for me to go from 3.4 million to 1 million, and I hope that Chispa's project goes through real easy, and I think that it sounds like the council is kind of going a certain direction, which is fine. That's great. But I'd like to see the affordable units spread out more evenly across town, and also extend that to the multifamily. Now, people are going to opt for the in lieu fee. I understand that. That's just the nature of the beast. And that's kind of the problem with the in lieu fee, is that when you have that option, people will take that option. So I'm not completely sold on this at this point. But I will entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve resolution.
Looks like 151.
151.
Yeah.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
No. Motion passes 3-1 with 1 abstention.
Doesn't look like it.
Marilyn Ferraro was a young lady.
All right, we'll move to F3.
Hello, Mayor and council members. I'm here to ask for the adoption of the budget that was presented to you the other night. There were a few questions that came out that I would just kind of re-answer them for you. I sent it to you as an email. One of them was how long has it been for $400 stipend for the city council? I couldn't find the history, but I did see that the amount that we're paying is what the government code states, and you can increase it if you want by ordinance by 5% once every year if you want to do that in the future. How much you spent on outside legal counsel for medical cannabis, and that was $22,000. How much has been spent on vehicle repairs inside versus outside? The total amount to date that has been spent is about $960,000. Outside has been about $128,000. And then finally, the budget that was prepared did not include a park maintenance worker one. You kind of said to bring back two different budgets. The budget that's presented in your packets does not include that, but additional park maintenance person would be another $70,000 a year. And if you wanted to add that, you could just do it in your motion. I'm just here if you have any questions. And the budget for the general fund would be about $22 million, and those expenditures would be balanced by the revenues and use of our fund balance.
Okay. Is there any questions? Councilmember Luna?
Yes, Brad. Out of the $22,000 for legal fees for cannabis, how much of that came out of the city council budget?
All that came out of the city council.
All of it?
Correct.
Nothing came out of the legal service contracts?
The legal service contract is within the city council's budget. We don't budget for the city attorney anymore.
You don't have the separate department for it?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it? Any other questions? Any comment cards?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Thank you
And
very
then
much.
another thing to add too is that we've also included for adoption was a capital improvement plan. We didn't add any more projects. We just rolled over the ones that we've had so that we can finish up the ones that we've started before we bring any more items to you. And then finally, the third item was appropriation limit, which allows us to spend the funds that we have brought, the taxing funds that we have brought in.
Okay. All right. Any questions? Vice Mayor Clara?
Does this iteration of the budget have the parks worker that we talked about?
No, this one it does not. So if you want to add the parks maintenance worker, you would have to add that into your motion.
Okay.
And that would be about another $70,000 a year for the general fund.
I thought we did. I thought we had a consensus to do that.
Yeah.
No, we.
So
Well,
if there's no other comments,
I'll make a motion. If there's no comments, I'll wait. Though.
Well, let's. Okay. Member Friend, did you have a comment? No.
No.
Did we have any public comments?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Motion to accept Resolution 2017-152 with the addition of one person specifically to maintain our city parks.
Second.
$70,000.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No. Thank you very much.
Did that cover all three? All three items?
The three resolutions.
Three resolutions. Sorry.
I'll make a motion to approve resolutions 2017-153 and 2017-154.
Okay, there's a motion.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Move to item G1, reports from city council members regarding their committees. Councilmember Luna.
I do not have any report at this time.
Councilmember Friend.
Yes, I only had one meeting. I had a meeting at the Monterey Bay Energy Co-op as the advisory committee. And we went through the process of selecting an interim CEO. And we did select an interim CEO, and that's being run through the process as far as the contracting and stuff, and that'll be announced on July 12th at the general session for the meeting.
Okay. Vice Mayor Clara?
Yes, I had a working group meeting regarding the Nash Road closure regional park bypass, and it was probably the most productive 1-hour meeting that I've sat in as a elected official. Costs are higher than expected on the road, but it looks like both the county and the school district, the high school district, are going to be looking at that tomorrow at their respective meetings, and hopefully we'll be moving forward under the terms that were discussed.
Okay. Councilmember Gilio?
Nothing to report.
The only meeting I had was with COG. We discussed the STIP funds coming in from the state for our local roads, and it appears that the city's portion will be about $900,000 over the next 3 years. The county portion is lower, and we did talk about how we could work as a partnership between the city and county if the county's willing to use some of their SB1 dollars to work as along or around the city or the roads that are used by our residents to go to work. So we're working on some kind of agreement on that. I really do need to have Mr. Gilio approved and put onto the COG committee. It's very important now, so we can bring that forward again.
We were going to put that on, Billy, I think June 26th, first thing. First thing.
Next one. Okay, thank you very much. That's it for my reports. Informational reports from City Council. Councilmember Luna.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to congratulate all the students in the class of 2017 for their graduation, and that includes my granddaughter, Chloe Luna, who graduated with honors from Crescent City High School. And also, I just want to recognize my son is in the audience tonight. He's from Arizona, but he's visiting. And so, we're going to give a welcome back to Vincent Luna. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good to have you here. Thank you. Councilmember Friend?
No, nothing for me.
Vice Mayor Clara?
Yeah, a couple items. Actually, I'm going to have to recuse myself from the medical marijuana dispensary choice next Monday. I have a family member who has, not a direct conflict of interest, but a indirect possible financial interest, or I'll just read the way that it was written. I don't know how to explain it. It's not, I don't have any interest in the transaction that's taking place, and I'm not a part of the transaction. But in the 1974 Political Reform Act, it says that public officials should perform duties in an impartial manner, free from bias caused by financial interests of persons who have supported them. So this person has supported me, so I need to recuse myself. It also says interest in personal finances. Officials' immediate family member will receive a measurable financial benefit from a decision. Then I need to recuse myself, and for that reason I have to recuse myself next week. It's not something that happened over the last year and a half that we've been working on it. It's in the last week and a half, so that's why it's happening. And then I also wanted to mention that I attended the Parks Master Plan update meeting for Brigantino Sprayfields last Thursday, I believe. And it was a really good meeting, but there was only 4 of us, if you count me, from the public. So not a great turnout, but it was helpful. And then the District 3 Parks Master Plan update meeting is going to take place this Thursday at 6 at room 218 of the Vets Hall. And hopefully everybody will come out, at least a couple more people than last time. It's really important that we get that public input. We're paying the consultants a decent amount of money to be here and perform the meeting, so hopefully we'll get that input from more people on Thursday.
Okay. Councilmember Gilliard?
I had a district meeting regarding the Roberts Ranch development, as well as an overview of development within the city on Thursday, the 15th. It was well attended. I'd estimate there's between 50 to 70 people. Got a lot of good input, took a lot of notes, met a lot of new people, a lot of good people in the community that care about our community. I attended a planning session for the motorcycle rally in the downtown, and I got to tell you, I was very, very impressed by not only the police department, but all city departments. You guys literally have this planned out down to the minute, and I'm very, very impressed with the thought that goes into making this a safe and successful event. Thank you for that. And just want to make sure I get the date right. This Wednesday night, Councilmember Clower didn't give me a free advertisement for my parks meeting, so I'm going to have to do it. I'm hoping we get a good turnout Wednesday night at Sarah Vista School. We have a parks master planning meeting for District 4. Please come out. Super important. If you want to see our parks head in a direction either that they're heading in or another direction, it's important that we get your feedback. So if you can't make our District 4 meeting, Councilmember Clower mentioned that there's another one on Thursday, and I don't know if those are the last two or if those are the last two. The other ones have already taken place. Thanks.
Okay, is that it? All right, I don't have any reports. City Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I do. You know what I did?
Go ahead.
I have my notes right here. Wanted to ask if we could put together a policy for new developments, especially from those coming from outside the city, that we can have a discussion on that in the near future. We can put that together.
Sure.
And also, I invited a gentleman that came by last year or 2 years ago that did a presentation about the urban rain runoff and different designs. I'd like to invite him back. He had some really good ideas on how we can improve 4th Street. So I'd like the other council members to see some of those ideas. Really came up with a beautiful design concept for 4th. And if we could have him back and do a presentation, explain some of the ideas that they can, or a lot of the cities are doing around the state now.
Got it.
Okay. Okay. City Manager.
Thank you. Again, just before we take the month of July off, June 26th at 6 p.m. we'll have a special meeting. Again, the first real quick items we'll take care of. I believe tonight I heard that we'll put a COG representative on. Also, we're going to do the interviews for the city treasurer position that night, and then we will begin letting the dispensary or cannabis dispensary applicants do their presentations. Just for the folks in the audience that were here, and somebody left, I was hoping to maybe be able to have her stay, is again, the folks that you're going to be listening to with as far as the dispensaries are concerned, they are all in what we would call appropriate land use designations pursuant to the ordinance. In addition to that, also the cultivation, manufacturing, testing are also all in the appropriate land use designation. So when I hear somebody just say that we want to make sure they're in the right spot, I just want to make sure that people out there in the community know that the right spot has already been determined by the city council through its ordinance, and all the people that we're going to be bringing towards you to you meet those first general requirements. So with that said, I don't have anything else.
Okay. City Attorney?
I do have something to report because I'm just reminded because of item 4 here on the reports of City Council, which is the League of Cities. I'm also planning to attend the attorneys part of that. And it's always informative, and it's a good opportunity to get up to speed with regards to new ordinances, laws, and ways of handling and representing public entities in a cost-efficient manner. So I will be attending that conference in Sacramento.
Excellent. Chief?
Just a couple things. I just heard we were successful with a federal traffic grant. I don't know the amount yet, but I'm guessing it'll be between $50,000 and $100,000. This grant will focus on distracted driving and driving under the influence. Also, just a reminder, there'll be some increased traffic Friday, Saturday, and Sundays, but mostly Friday and Saturday on Airline due to the the rodeo occurring as well. So just be careful with that as well. And hopefully people make smart choices this weekend and don't drive under the influence. Thank you.
Thank you. City Clerk?
I just wanted to mention that we might have a few other things on that June 26th council meeting because we are going dark in July. So I think I have a couple of claims, and there may be some landscape and lighting or CFD or something like that on there. So there may be a couple of other things.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, we'll move to item G3, airport.
Can I have my PowerPoint? Good evening. During the budget process, there were some questions raised about the airport, and it kind of made me realize that it's been a while since I kind of gave you a presentation about the airport. So I'm going to take a few minutes, give you an overview. Our consultant, Kevin Flynn from Kimley Horn, our engineering consultant, is present if you have any specific questions about projects or why we have to do things the way we do. He previously worked with the FAA for 10 years, managing the grant program and project program. So he's an incredible resource, and he was able to make himself available for you guys tonight. So there we go. So let's talk about the airport just by the numbers. So out of 194 airports in the state of California that are recognized by the FAA and the state of California as important airports, we're number 76 when it comes to the amount of based aircraft at the airport. Salinas is number 61, Watsonville is number 53, and South County Airport's number 110, just to give you a comparison around us. Our nearest number, number 74, was Sacramento, Mather Field. They're the ones ranking right above us. And then our airport I've never heard of down in San Diego. We are number 3 in the region for runway length. If you define our region as San Jose, Monterey, Los Banos. San Jose is number 1. They have a 10,000 foot long runway. Monterey is number 2. They have a 7,300 foot long runway. We are number 3 with a 6,350 foot runway. That's really good when you're trying to land something that goes fast. And then if you look at the way our airport stacks up for business compatibility using the National Business Aviation Association's airport guidelines, we rank very well. Several of our items we receive top scores. Several of the items receive decent scores. There is no category that we are deficient in when it comes to their guidelines for an airport. Recent achievements out at the airport. In the last 5 years, we brought in $12 million in federal grants. We completed a total reconstruction of the primary runway. That's all 1.5 miles of it, and that was quite the project. We have the installation of 1.5 miles of a storm drain system along the primary runway, so the runway never gets into the condition it was previously. We recently, the construction of a 14,000 square foot hangar bringing a new business into town has been completed. And in the previous year's budget, you added 1 full-time equivalent maintenance worker to the airport, bringing the total to 2. To show you the airport revenues, we can only go back to 1999 in the computer. So you have about a 17-year spread. And they're going up. There's a few dips depending on when the check came for whatever thing, but the median line there shows the direction it's going. When I took over in 2007, the revenues were at about $450,000. This year, we're projecting revenues of over $1 million. Currently, this is our fund balance for the airport fund. This is the cash on hand in the balance, and the total amount's about $1 million. Of that money, a previous council set up 4 savings accounts for the airport or designated fund balances I like to use the word savings account because it's easy for people to understand. Each year, as there's a surplus, I bring an item before you to go ahead and put money into those accounts. And I'll be bringing that item in August, as usual. Currently, we have about $115,000 for set aside for capital improvements at the airport. We have an additional $115,000 set aside for a rainy day issue at the airport. We have $115,000 set aside for major equipment replacement, say a truck, a paint sprayer, tractor, etc. And we have $220,000 currently for our FAA matching funds. That there is guaranteed to match over $2 million in FAA grants if they become available. And then we have about $450,000 in operating cash sitting in that account. I never take that fund balance when we allocate funds lower than $800,000. The airport is an asset to the community. At a minimum, an airport of this size has a positive economic impact in the county of at least $10 million. In August, by October, we should have our airport land use plan complete and should be before you for adoption. As soon as that document's complete, I'm going to bring a supplemental appropriation request to you to go ahead and fund an economic study on that plan and the airport so that everything's nice and packaged up. We did get some numbers off similar airports of our size. Probably the closest is Apple Valley. They have the same number of airplanes based, same similar makeup of mix, and their economic impact for that county is $13.3 million. Currently, there's over 60 people employed at the airport, and those are full-time jobs. And the airport also directly contributes over $100,000 annually to the general fund. Half of that is possessory income tax, property tax that the tenants pay for the hangars. The other half of that is a direct payment as part of the overhead of operating the city. Our objectives moving forward are to continue focus on fiscal responsibility for the airport. That has been my #1 priority since we took over. And we've shown it, and we're in a good position now. The airport makes a little money each year. We got our infrastructure needs are being met, and our equipment's, we actually have equipment. When I took over, we didn't even have equipment. Our emphasis is on safety, standards, and maintenance out at the airport. We are trying and concentrated on attracting and retaining the type of users that benefit the whole city, not just the airport. Obviously, we're trying to increase jobs out there, and we're trying to enhance the off-airport revenue. Our capital improvement plan, which I'll be bringing you to you in August, reflects the following projects. Our #1 need are safety improvements to the taxiway system. There's about 3 different issues with the way the geometry of the way they laid them out in 1944 no longer matches standards in 2017, and the FAA would like them fixed, and they're willing to pay 90% of the cost to get them fixed. Pavement maintenance and preservation of the crosswind runway and taxiways. It'll be time to do a slurry seal in a few years on 624 again, and the taxiways. The last one we did was in 2007. Safety area and runway protection zone improvements. And the anticipated project costs for these projects is $10 million over the next 5 to 7 years. Of that, $9 million would be federal money. $1 million of it would be local and state. Of that, $500,000 should be local, $500,000 should be state. Depending on the way the economy is, the state pulls their matching funds. They're here this year, they're gone next. So obviously we try to compete each year. I think that's the overview.
Good. Is there any questions from council?
No, thank you, Mike.
Councilmember Friend? Did you have one?
No.
Sorry, Councilmember Giglio?
I went on a tour of the airport with Mr. Chambliss, and I was very impressed with the capabilities of the airport. I think there's a lot that we have to offer, and I think we need to do our best, as we have been in the past, and staff has been in the past, of advertising the airport and getting the word out there that we have it. I'd really like to see the air show come back in the future. And I wasn't on the council at the time. I was actually in the audience doing my research to figure out, if I wanted to apply for this position. And you guys spoke about a fly-in. And it seemed like a great idea to get the word out there and have businesses. And we're so close to the Silicon Valley. Everybody talks about traffic. We can land pretty much any corporate jet here. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
And I think the more we get the word out, the better. And perhaps we can look at bringing a discussion back to talk about the air show and a fly-in, because I imagine they take a long time to plan. It's probably not just something we can decide and you can put on next month. That's all. Thanks.
The question I have for you, you talked about we're ranked 76. Is that what it was?
Yes.
A based aircraft.
That's correct.
Here. How many aircraft is that? And does that mean that they're registered here? They have
They're
a hangar
registered
space?
and live here. 144.
And what does that compare to the other ones you mentioned, like Watsonville and Salinas?
Watsonville had about 300, and Salinas, I think they're in the 200 range.
Currently, all the hangar spaces we have, are they all occupy a plane? I know in the past there were some folks that said there was storage and different deals. Have we solved that problem?
Every hangar has it meets FAA regulations and has aircraft in it.
Okay. So what the next step is going to be some additional hangars? I know we talked about that in the past.
As that capital improvement fund reaches the proper amount, yes, my next proposal is we put up a stick of executive hangars. I will not recommend that we build any more T hangars. That area of aviation is on the decline.
Right.
The future of aviation is business aviation. So I would recommend we put up 4 or 5 executive hangars. I already have 3 customers out the gate if I put them up tomorrow. So, and a vacancy of 2 of them wouldn't last long.
Well, that was my next question. Is there a waiting list now for the hangars?
We haven't established it because in reality we're talking, depending on how bad fire gets us with the state regulations, you're talking anywhere from $2.5 to $3 million for that project, and the funds just aren't there right now.
How about our lease rates compared to the other communities for their hangar space?
Salinas's rates are lower than ours. I don't know Watsonville's. South County is double what we charge.
Can you provide us that information?
Mm-hmm.
And the number of hangar spaces or aircraft each one has compared to what we have, and the lease rates out there, and if there is a waiting list at our airport compared to the other ones. I'd like to see that. I think you're right as far as the executive planes, the jets that need a home, and we need to start to work towards that. So it's a good presentation. Thank you for updating us.
Thank you.
Work, Mike.
And I think we have a speaker card.
Marty Richmond.
Marty Richmond from Hollister. Since I asked for something like this, also along with the city council members, I'm very glad. I think it's an excellent presentation. And I am especially glad to hear that we're going to do an economic study, because that's what we need. We need to take the next step. I know that's being pushy after you get a good thing. But look, we got a $10 million asset out there, and it's essentially returning us. I know it has 60 employees, but that's kind of like internal mostly. So it's essentially returning us $100,000 a year. Forget about the grants for a minute. The grants just make the capital terrific. It's a terrific value to the capital out there, which means we've got to put it to work. We've got to get the businesses. I read a Caltrans document the other day. For whatever reason, Caltrans said that in 2015 they have no freight data at all going in or out of the Hollister Airport. Zero. So they had it as zero. I thought it was a mistake, and I double-checked it. No, they got it as 0. So we should be shipping freight. We should be receiving freight. We should be asking the Chamber of Commerce and other economic development opportunities to be promoting it, to say, look, what do you got there? Well, we always say we got beautiful weather. Well, we should be saying, guess what? We have an airport too, and that airport can take your business, whether it's an airplane-related business or a business where you may have to ship something overnight directly to a customer who's got $1 million oil rig or $1 million farm piece of equipment that he can't run because he can't get the part. And rather than try to even take it out to FedEx, maybe we could get a deal where you could ship it directly from the Hollister Airport as air freight to some airport in Indiana or wherever and go. I think it's a tremendous opportunity. And I do think there's a lot of public benefit that the public knows nothing about. I've spoken on this, and I'll kill the last minute and 27 seconds by saying we should be explaining to the public the benefits they get, for instance, from the CAL FIRE bombers that come here and do fire protection, and other benefits that we get that the public gets. These are not readily seeable or available to them because they don't know about it. And I think we should be doing that. I think it was a great presentation. It just shows you what a great airport we got, which means it's got fantastic potential. And we have to put that potential to work. Thank you for your time, and I yield back 50 seconds.
Thank you. Mike?
Elias Salinas?
Oh, we have another speaker?
Oh, sorry. I didn't know you missed it.
That's okay. I know. You're just used to Marty doing all the speaking. Elias Salinas again. So I have a couple of questions. The tenants were paying directly through a third party. Are the tenants now paying to the city directly instead of having to pay the third party to collect the rent on the tenants? Are there funds set aside for taxiway through the fence with the new developments that are going on with cannabis being built out there? Because personally, I see within 5 years cannabis going federal and flying in and out of that airport, whether it's within the state and not necessarily going throughout, but we have to follow FAA rules. And definitely agree with Marty that actually the airport needs to be used to its full potential. He's thinking the report was that we were lacking, we were low on something, and what were we lacking on, and what can we do to improve it? I mean, it wasn't mentioned on the report. What can we do to improve it? I really think a lot of people in the city that live here don't even know that Hollister Airport exists. They're bedroom community residents, and the airport is a great. I think we need when we lost the restaurant out there, we lost a lot of revenue. People would come in, they would fly in with their families, stop in, have lunch, fuel up, and go back out. We're missing that. We don't get that anymore from there. The hangars that are there, how many of the hangars, the airplanes that are in the hangars, how many are operational? Just because you have an airplane there, and there are some people that have airplanes in there, they're not operational. And they're just using it as they have an airplane there, and they keep working on that. They've been working on their airplanes for decades. Those leases have been issued for years and years and years, and I don't know what the current rate of the leases are out there, or the current rate is, but how often, when are those leases are coming up? How are we comparing it to the other airports in the area? Let's see, what else do I want to say? Out of this, how many city employees are out there? I think he's just that they hired one more, but I'm curious to find out how many city employees do we have out at the airport. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's a lot of questions. I think we went through quite a few of them. I think the point being more information, and I would say that it'd be good if you can come back every quarter and give us an update, and also what the plan is for the year to see if we're reaching our goals for the airport.
Okay.
I really do think it's about to turn around here where people are going to use the airport as a commuting source, as Councilman Gilliard was talking about. I know when I'm in Redwood City, I see the planes fly in, I think, I need to buy a plane. It'd be much easier for me to fly to work than drive in that traffic every day.
So
but I could see a lot of the jet traffic coming in if we do have the space for them. So what does that mean? Can we kind of have a goal of, maybe 10? You said you can get 3 in right now, but let's do that study and find out what we can do. So
understand.
Good presentation.
Let me answer just a couple of them real quick. There's 3 full-time employees at the airport, and I'm a 0.3 employee at the airport. 30% of my pay comes for the airport. That was a lot of questions. Through the fence. Airport funds cannot be used to construct the taxiways for through the fence. That's an FAA regulation, and they're not going to budge on it. So absolutely no money is being set aside to build the through the fence taxiways. A lease it was executed years ago with the property owner on the other side of the fence, and he has the land that's already all set up for him, so he can go ahead and do the through the fence payment. We cannot pay for that. As far as operable aircraft, that is not part of the FAA hangar regulation, so I do not inspect their flight worthiness certificates. I'd say probably just on activity, 40% of them fly on a regular basis, but I'm not out there on the weekends to see what's going up on Saturdays and Sundays. As far as the revenue from the restaurant, when the day the restaurant closed, the airport lost $12,000 a year in rent. That was all the money that the airport was making off the restaurant. The airport doesn't make any money when airplanes fly in. The only time we would is if they were purchasing fuel, and if they purchase fuel, we make 8 cents a gallon. Whether or not there's still a third party collecting rents, there are some old agreements out there where a third party still does collect some of the rents at the airport, and as time goes by, those are expiring. One of our older agreements does expire in June or the first of the year, and we will retain. We once again have ownership of one of the larger hangars. Did I get them all?
That's a lot of questions. So I think we get them next time around. But thank you for the update.
All right, thank you.
All right, we'll move to item G4. The voting delegates for the League of Cities.
I would like to volunteer as one of the delegates.
I'll go ahead and go this year also. I didn't get to go last year for the conference. So is there a consensus that's all right with the council members?
That's fine with me.
Is all right? So we'll have Councilmember Friend and myself attend this year's meeting. And next year we'll send 2 others. We'll take turns. Okay?
Did you also want to choose an alternate? Because it says 1 voting delegate and 2 alternates I need.
Okay. Does somebody want to be an alternate? Councilmember Luna?
So are you going to be the voting delegate?
I'll vote, yes.
And Ray will be 1 alternate?
Yes.
And Mickey will be the 2nd alternate?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Just to be clear, everybody can go, though.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Doesn't mean you're not allowed to go.
Yes, you can, yeah.
All right. H, I, J, and K, there's no business. Is there a
Move for
motion?
adjournment.
Hang on, Councilmember Luna.
Yeah, I'd like the City Council's meeting tonight to be adjourned in memory of Andres Joseph Martinez, young man, 28 years old, son of Airport Commissioner Jose Martinez, who passed away suddenly on June 5th. And so, former young man, graduated from San Benito High School. And very sad occasion, something very sad, but anyway, if we could have just adjourned in his memory.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion and second?
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.